Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton, HurricaneTrack.com here. I am in Vineland, New Jersey. Came up here for the potential storm surge issues associated with the post-tropical version of Hermine. And I'm still going to head down to the coast a little later today and set out a couple of cameras just to see what happens. I'm going to actually try to stream one of them in a higher resolution than I have been doing, just to do a little testing. And, I'm here, so I might as well do something. Certainly good news that it looks like the overall threat of a significant flooding event is diminishing. Nevertheless, let's take a look at what's going on out in the tropics today. First, a look at the post-tropical version of Hermine. Basically, it has made an extratropical transition, meaning that it is, got a fairly vigorous low-level circulation, but strong upper-level winds cutting across the top of it. And the atmosphere is such that upper-level low pressure is going to park over the system instead of an upper-level high-pressure area. It's all very complicated, but it's transitioned from a classic tropical cyclone to one that we would expect to see, especially in the wintertime, sort of like a nor'easter that we see that bombs off the coast of the mid-Atlantic states, for example. But this had tropical origins to begin with, starting as a wave of low pressure over Africa, moving all the way across the Atlantic on that long 18-day saga. And here it is off the coast of the mid-Atlantic, far enough that this deep convection that we do see here being sheared away, even as I talk about it, is well away from the coastline. And as you can clearly see, it's pretty much just partly cloudy skies, brisk winds out of the north and northeast here, along the coast, but that's about it. Rough surf conditions, rip currents. It's not ideal for the New Jersey shore and Long Island and the mid-Atlantic states, Delaware, Maryland, you name it, but this is certainly a far cry from what this could have been. You can tell that it's still moving generally eastward here, and if this continues, it doesn't look like it's slowing down. It might just go on out. You never know. I will show you, though, an interesting run of the 12Z GFS. I don't know if anybody quote-unquote told it about the fairly brisk east to east-northeast movement that we're still seeing when that run initialized at 12Z this morning. Anyhow, this is a look at the forecast track from the Hurricane Center. Tropical storm warnings in effect for parts of the east coast here. Probably not going to see very many tropical storm conditions and maybe not even any rainfall. The potential for tropical storm conditions out on the southern parts of New England, southeast New England, warrants the watch there, the tropical storm watch. But this is the forecast track, bending back to the northwest just a little bit. They only get it to about 70 degrees longitude here. It could become a hurricane again, but it's got a long way to go to wrap that convection around and do something other than what it's doing now, where it looks like a sheared extratropical cyclone, again, one that you would expect to see up in the mid-latitudes, which is where it is. So let me show you the GFS. This is the 12Z run, and this is the 850 millibar vorticity field. Here's our system, spread out, very large wind field area of energy associated with it, as you can see on the satellite picture. And so this is the initial condition, where it is right now, or early this morning at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And this is where it's forecast to be in 48 hours. Now, before you get too alarmed and go, oh my goodness, it really came back towards the coast, let's look at the frames. I'll step through them one at a time here. And you see how it kind of rotates back in over the next 24 to 36 hours. And it actually gets back at 48 hours or so to about 71 and a half, maybe 72 degrees longitude, not quite that far, probably more like 71 and a half. And if you look at it, I'll try to draw this line as straight as I can. It's about the same longitude here as the central portion of Hispaniola. And if you look at a tracking map and any maps that show latitude and longitude, this is, right around 71 and a half degrees west or so. So that'll be interesting to see if it can get that far west. Will it increase the wind field? We'll just have to see about that. So some interesting things maybe still to go with it. Rough surf along the coast, a good bet. But I think the big threat of storm surge is definitely diminishing. We can't say 100% that it's gone, that threat, but it certainly is looking better. Meanwhile, 92L, you remember this? It was coming off Africa, hadn't even come off yet, and a lot of the models were bringing it over and coming into the southeast, some of them bringing it up into the Carolinas as a powerful hurricane. A lot of talk about it in the hurricane blogosphere, as I call it, the weather geek community. You know, we're on top of this stuff, and you look to see if the pattern fits, and it certainly looked like it. But here it is today, September the 4th, and it's bringing some gusty winds and heavy rains to portions of the Lesser Antilles, but the conditions just aren't favorable right now. Pretty strong upper level winds, dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere throughout this region. Just not going to allow this to develop, it looks like. Should move on off to the west-northwest with time. We'll see what happens over here. But none of the models indicating any significant development over the next week to 10 days. We might see something try to get going in this region towards week 2, but that's so far out that it's just more of a heads up and reminding you above anything else that it is hurricane season still. Duh, I mean, it's only September 4th. We have to keep our eyes open for trouble, even though there's nothing lurking at the moment in the Atlantic outside of Hermine. Now in the Pacific, not to worry about either of these two areas at all. This, though, should go on to develop and become the next tropical storm and move up towards the Baja and the Gulf of California, bringing some moisture to the southwest. If we look at the track forecasts model plots, you can tell that's pretty much what it looks like is going to happen. Bring a lot of rainfall maybe up here. Should be some beautiful pictures coming from some of the storm chasers and weather enthusiasts in the southwest United States. I look forward to seeing that. I went out there a couple of years ago for Norbert and Odile. They came up on similar tracks. They had a lot more moisture and they were a lot stronger. If we look at the intensity guidance for this system, and by the way, this is East Pacific Invest area, 90E, or EP for Eastern Pacific, 90E. In the Atlantic, they get the L because of Atlantic. Anyway, the intensity guidance, mostly tropical storm in here, as you can see. So really not expecting this to strengthen too much before landfall along the Baja, but it will bring a lot of moisture. Definitely something to monitor over the next several days, but it doesn't look like it could be a hurricane. Not out of the possibility, the realm of possibility. You can tell I'm tired, right? A lot of driving the last few days. But seriously, along the Baja there, big flood threat as usual with all that rainfall and typically arid areas and some of the mountainous terrain there. Interesting interaction for sure, and I'll stay on top of it. All right, so again, I'm going to go down to the Jersey Shore here in just a little bit, next few hours, set up a couple of the cameras. I will post those to HurricaneTrack.com, and I will tweet those. You can follow me on Twitter, @HurricaneTrack. Easy to find, and I'll leave those running for a day or so if it warrants. If not, I'll pull them off tomorrow afternoon, and that'll be that. And that's good news. You know, the Jersey Shore, this area, a beautiful part of the country. Millions of people call it a favorite for vacationing and beach going, and this is the last thing people needed. And hopefully this storm can move on out, and at least the folks up here can salvage the rest of what is going to be a beautiful and increasingly warm Labor Day weekend. All right? I am Mark Sept for HurricaneTrack.com. As always, thanks for checking in. I'll have another complete video blog for you tomorrow, and I'll post a few video updates to our app and to the YouTube channel here over the course of the next day. So I'll talk to you again tomorrow.